In this video, I'm going to show you how to take this part and scale it using a design table. So we have to know that within this part, we have parameters that are specifying all of the geometry, such as this one and this other one here. Now, each of those parameters has a handle associated with it, or a way that the computer knows how to refer to that information. So for example, if I come in here and I look at this particular parameter, its value is 1 millimeter, but its handle is D1 at sketch 1. Okay, D1 at sketch 1. And I can change that right here to whatever I want it to be, or I can change it through a design table. And when I change it through a design table, it allows me to do scaling and other such operations very quickly. So we're going to create a design table for this part, and we're going to do that by going to the Insert button way up here and come all the way down to Tables and enter in or click a design table. What I want to do in pretty much every case here is just auto-populate, auto-create the design table and take the defaults. And it's going to now give me a huge list of all the parameters associated with this product. I want to get all of them, and I want them to all become part of the design table. So I needed to highlight them and indicate that. Now what's happened in Solidworks is that it's opened up Excel, Microsoft Excel within Solidworks, and that's what I have going on in this portion of the screen over here. If I click outside of this, the design table closes and the model automatically updates based on the information in the design table. I don't want to close it yet because I haven't done anything to it, but I do want to see it, so I'm expanding it out there. And now I can see that I have a couple of things going on. Every one of the handles is listed right up here. So D1 at sketch 1, remember we looked at that one a minute ago, it's right here and its value is 1. And then the same is true with all these things, all these handles, everything's got a value. And this is the name of the configuration. So the default configuration, the one we started with, created all these values. We created those when we made the sketches and such. If I want to scale this part, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it the 10x. I'm going to call the configuration 10x. And then I'm simply going to multiply the things that are in the row above it by 10. And then I can just use regular old Excel operations like dragging to create a part that was, 10 times as big. Okay, I could do all kinds of stuff here. I could make this 2.5x if I wanted to, and I could do the same kind of operations. 2.5 times x times the default, and get all these different values. Okay, so once I've done that and I can make as many configurations as I want to, I click outside of this, and what's going to happen is SolidWorks automatically updates, and it tells me there are 2 brand new configurations that were not in the model to begin with, and it's going to ask if configuration should be generated of those, and say yes, I'm good to go. So right now what we're looking at is the default model, and if we want to look at the ones we just created, we need to go over to the configuration manager, which is near the design tree. Okay, and I can see that I've got these other options. So I'm going to go on the 10x version. When I go on the 10x version, now my part's giant, right? Because it's 10 times bigger than what it was before. And that's great. So we also should see that our mass properties have changed. Indeed, the mass has increased because it's 10 times bigger, and our volume has increased. So we know that we've affected the model in the way we had intended to affect it. Now, if we go back into here, and we look back at some of those parameters that we were looking at early on, we can see that indeed D1 at sketch 1 is 10 instead of 1. So that's it. That's all you do. Okay, so what we want to try to do now is update the drawing associated with this part. So I've already opened up that drawing. I'm going to go into that drawing now, and we can see that this is the default configuration. It's just 1 millimeter tall, this little piece here, and 4 millimeters tall completely. And we want to see if we can turn this drawing into the 10x version of this drawing. I'm going to show you how to do that now. The first thing we want to do is go over here to the sheet formats to the view number 1, which is this one, and we want to go in and we want to edit this feature, and we want to just put this right back to the original scale of 1:1. And you can see, of course, that now we have a ridiculously small drawing, which is no good, but it's going to be this way for a second. It's going to be all right. So we accept that change. We want to go in now to the isometric view and do the same exact thing here, finding the scale and going back to the 1:1 and accepting that. Okay, so now this is good because we have the actual sized part in here with the dimensions still on there. So if we go to view number 1 and go to properties, and into properties we see the default is being used in this drawing, and instead we want to pick the 10x version and say okay, and this one view has now updated. We want to go do that for the other views. Turns out you cannot do all the views at the same time for some unfortunate reason. The dimensions will be lost if you do that. I tried that just a minute ago. Now we're going to change the properties, go to default to 10x, and now things are looking pretty good. And what we can do now is, we got to do the last view, which is the isometric view. Properties, switch over into the 10x version, and we like that. And now we can see that everything is looking pretty good in this view, and everything's looking good in this view. We do, however, have a dimension that is kind of undesirable here. Okay, that's the 10, and also because we've got 10.00 here, it's gotten too big. So what I can do is I can just drag it to the side, and when I do that, the arrows will flip around to the inside, which is of course convenient. And I'm just going to straighten these up so they look nice and professional. And then I can see that my views are kind of not nicely placed on the page. So I'm going to adjust those just a little bit, and that's going to make me feel more comfortable about the work that I created. And pull this ISO view in just a little bit. So that's looking pretty good. Let's save this as a 10x version. 10x. Okay. One thing that happened when I changed that name is that the drawing number down here changed. I like that. I have other things in my title block that I need to change, which I can do by going over to the properties and changing these. What I want to change mostly here is the title. I want to call it a 10x version. Okay, a 10x configuration. Is there anything else I need to change there? Yes, I need to change the scale, because now my scale is not 16:1, but instead it's 1:1. Okay, so now just zooming in and taking a look at what I got here. I've got the new name. I've got an additional qualifier on the title. I've got my scale down to where it needs to be, and all this stuff is looking great. So that's it. That's how you take a file that's been scaled by design table and then update the drawing associated with it. I hope that helps.